It's very nice to meet you all. My name is Laura Rocha. I graduated from my MPA in 2020 as well with Alejo, and I'm super excited to be here today in this new Wagner building. I never had any class in this area. Most of my Wagner experience was downtown, but very excited to see that the students groups are still together. You're doing events, and when I was in Wagner, I really enjoyed. I think that this connection within the community was one of the most important experience as an international student. So very excited to be here today. I can share a little bit about myself, my work, and be pretty brief to leave more time to discussion. Originally from Medellin, Colombia, I worked in Colombia as a lawyer for over 10 years. So my background was a lot in as a public lawyer in the government space. I worked there with the Supreme Court, with we don't have federal government there, we have national government there. So work in different agencies in the national government, and then I also worked as a litigation lawyer in cases related with the government. And then before coming here, moving in the US, I was legal director of a construction company. We built airports and bridges and highways. So honestly, coming from a background in social work as a lawyer, it was quite interesting to find this master and understanding how I could join some topics that I never thought I would be interested. Just as a quick background in my work in Colombia, I was very passionate about or interested in, of course, as you all may know, Colombia was a country with a hard armed conflict. So, of course, as I study and I had the opportunity to progress, I also wanted to find a way to give my education and my knowledge to try to solve the problems for my country. So most of my interests were hey, yes, I love how people make money, that's great, how people make products, that's great, but we need to solve problems for real life problems. That was I always said. And that was the reason I always wanted to work in public service. I was yes, the municipalities or the states or the government are the biggest corporations related to the people. A major office is sometimes the main employer in a town or so on. So I had this, I would say fixation with problems for people. And I think that might come from my family background. My mother was a nurse working in a local hospital, and my dad was a doctor working in different hospitals, but I always had suffering close to me because of my my family work. So anyway, I never thought being a lawyer in a bank. And then when I came here, because random, similar to Alejo, following my boyfriend at that time and husband, and trying to come here to make something useful with my time, I found this program, and I found that it was very interesting to fusion something that I never thought I would be doing. So I was okay, I'm in New York. Something that New York does pretty well, it's money. So let's learn more about how money works. And then I started at Wagner, and I the first year when I was checking all these, brochures and everything, I noticed that this social innovation emphasis or area was this is cool because we're fusioning public service with innovation, and that is something that in my mind were opposite. So that is something that I was super excited about Wagner, and I wanted to share it. And it was like, it became a path for myself. So before coming here, I was legal director of a concessionary company, and we did like bridges and airports and everything. And of course, I knew a lot of legislation and I checked contracts, but sometimes you also learn that to be able to deliver impact, you need to take care of the money and you need to think about money. And that was something I wasn't trained to do it. Like, lawyers are trained to solve a lot of problems, but sometimes you don't figure out about money, especially when it comes to the public service, because, you think government has money. So when I started my master's and you have to decide your path, I decided to go for a finance. I was like, okay, I'm here, I'm challenging myself, and let's take all these quantitative courses. So I finally learned something new. And of course, it's not like a master's, it's something that you cannot teach you everything, but you learn you're able to expose to new things. So I started my finance specialization, and then as I said, also found this interesting path in social innovation. But that time I wasn't even thinking on being an entrepreneur, so social innovation path wasn't my thing. But my boyfriend was a data scientist. So he was doing this data scientist master at Columbia. And they were talking about artificial intelligence, algorithms, all these things. And something that I was always super frustrated, it was he was doing all this not cool, but irrelevant tech. And I was like, you're always using that tech for cool filters on Instagram and dog faces on Snapchat. I cannot believe all these brilliant minds are using that technology for a filter. It doesn't make sense. We have real life problems and nobody is solving that. So I was okay, if finance and innovation is the thing now, let's take my time here at Wagner to learn about that, and then we'll figure out how in the future I come back to Colombia and apply that. So that was my mindset. I wasn't really thinking on how to pay my bills, honestly. But I was very interested in taking advantage of all this new knowledge that I was exposed to. And I think that is cool when you are at NYU, honestly, not just at Wagner. And I never knew that would be my future as an entrepreneur. So just after graduation, same as Alejo, I graduated during pandemic. It wasn't the best time to graduate as an international student. Nobody was hiring, and not even thinking on applying for a working visa. Those things were not an option. So while I was in Wagner, I started doing some volunteer work at some organizations here, and coming to these events and being part of some of the students groups, I started being very close to the Latino community here. I didn't have a lot of friends, Latino friends, before coming to Wagner, so I found a very cool community and started learning more how the Latino and multicultural communities were struggling or finding a way here in the US. That's something that I wasn't exposed, because in Latin America, we are all Latinos, so it's not same struggles here. And being part of these organizations and understanding more on these struggles, I started doing some volunteer work and using this knowledge and interesting data to build some projects. Similar, I work with the Colombian embassy doing some business cases on how to prove to businesses that Latino were a good consumers. And then honestly, having random conversations with people around those projects, we found someone that was hey, that sounds interesting. It might be helpful for a company that I'm just acquired. This guy was a VC, an investor. And why don't you chat with the CEO and check if they might be used that information? So in that way, I got exposed to the like how companies have problems with data and how they want to connect with communities. So, like one of the things that I wanted to share with you is like first, like take advantage of all these different topics you can be exposed, of course, related with your passions. And second, like being a little bit open on the type of things that you start doing with your time, because it can be end up in finding something that you might be interested to do in the future. So through these projects, I was like, okay, that sounds like an interesting thing. I would love to start like working more in this, but I didn't know any idea on how to build a company in the US. So I found like walking around one of the NYU buildings close to Washington Square Park, I saw a window sticker, like a sticker in a window, and the person in the sticker was one of my classmates. So I was like, hey, I saw you in this window. What are you doing there? And she said, like, hey, they're helping me because I'm trying to create an NGO. So they're providing me advice. That is the NYU Entrepreneur Institute. And they help you and the free resources. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe they can help me to find a way to create a company here to be able to invoice to this company that I wanted to provide the consulting services, like the friend of my friend. Again, not thinking to be like an entrepreneur in the tech space, but I wanted to be able to apply for optional practice training, OPT, and then being able to work, like legally work and create a company here to be able to invoice for my consulting service. So like $2,000, I don't know. And then through the boot camps at the NYU Entrepreneur Institute, I like share my idea on like how to use data to connect with communities. They start guiding me through the different steps that I could follow to build a company, and then like bring me mentors. And like through their advice, I realized that I could build a tech company around that project. So it was like, of course, a lot of work. I wouldn't say like building a company, it's like anything but easy, but it was a lot of support and like opening my mind on opportunities that I never thought about, especially at that time in the pandemic. I was like, okay, nobody's gonna hire me, of course. I might not be able to be here. So why don't, like, there's not like a risk. I can take my time. I'm gonna be able to work in my OPT, in building this business, and like I have NYU support, so I'm not like alone. For me, it was like a great experience. Through that journey, they helped me to connect with investors, to like try to deal on how to navigate the entrepreneur world, and then, of course, and providing me some resources. So I just wanted to share with you that sometimes the public service space might be very related with government, or sometimes with corporations in the space that they're doing, but it might be like very broad. It might be even like building your own business, or how you can merge different topics like technology and public service. Right now in my company, what we do is providing tech solutions and insights and analytics for consumer packaged goods brands, so food and beverage companies that are sold at Walmart, Target, Whole Foods. And we help them understand where the product is sold, like across, all these thousands of stores across the country, and how diverse the consumers are around the country. So they're not just serving, the white, millennial, working finance guy here in Soho, but they're like serving a broad community, and how with that information they can tailor their messages, they can do more new products, and they can, of course, bring better products to more communities. So Like a long story short, it's been like a journey from being a lawyer all the way to working and volunteering in different organizations. I went for the Major Office of Data Analytics, United Nations Office of Innovation and Public Policy, MIT projects, working with startups here in New York, and then like end up building my own startup. So I think the path can be very broad for you in Wagner. So yeah, thank you.